Pay me no mind, sports and entertainment. Feel free to hit that like button. Become a subscriber, hit the bell icon, so on and so forth. Let's get into some bite down boxing talk. To all the fight fans out there, Happy New Year. And personally, I think it's dope that as troubled as boxing may be, may or may not be, it's on this game. We get a fight, a meaningful fight, the second day of the year. Now, it happened because of delays, driven by COVID, positive, COVID-19 test, I believe, for, was it Campbell? Why is this fight moved back? I can't even remember now. But anyway, again, man, I'm kind of confused with where we are in boxing right now. You look on your recommendations, videos and whatnot, and it's people in an uproar and outrage because Camp A says something about Camp B, or they said, Camp B said they can beat Camp A, whatever. And so De La Hoya has come out and said that, he thinks, that's an operative phrase right there, I think Ryan Garcia can run through Gervonta Davis. It's on boxingscene.com. Oh, I think Ryan Garcia walks right through Tank Davis. I really do. I mean, that's his opinion. And him as the promoter, what is he supposed to say? I get confused on who's getting out of pocket, who's stepping out of line, who's being controversial. But at the end of the day, if Ryan Garcia gets past Luke Campbell convincingly, how about make the fight? Like, aren't we past that? Wouldn't that put us past the point of there being a lot of mystery here, or doesn't it check enough boxes to show us that there's some viability in a big time fight between Tank and Ryan Garcia? And how about somebody young, again, similar to Teofimo Lopez? How about somebody calling somebody out and being ambitious, being audacious, wanting to go and prove themselves as great? So I'm having this whole clout chasing concept, and he's using so and so's name for recognition and whatever. Make the fight. Don't try to go and get some no-name guy, somebody that I've never seen before from South America, Central America. So don't go getting one of those guys and telling me you're gonna, as Mayweather Promotions, don't go getting one of those guys and telling me it's a pay-per-view event and talking about ticket sales and pay-per-view buys and all of that. And this is the reason why Tank is the chosen one, and that he's the future face of boxing, or he is the face of boxing. Like, make some fights that are really, like, right now, we don't even have, a lot of us don't even have Tank in our top 10 pound for pound. But then you listen to Floyd or Leonard Ellaby, and that's he's the number one pound for pound guy. Like, based on what, bro? How? Like, this man been MIA and cruising for like 3 years now. Now, I get it. Two big names, two young big names. I would imagine if an actual conversation was held, I could imagine that the asking price, the guarantees would be pretty sizable. I get that. But I think, again, if he gets past Luke Campbell in convincing fashion, it's gotta be worth the risk for all the parties involved. It's gotta be something that can come out of it. Again, would Garcia go over to the Showtime or a PBC platform, or vice versa. I don't know. But it's got to be a way that if Garcia wins the fight tomorrow night, it's got to be a way that it can make sense, that it makes sense enough, or that it makes enough dollars that it makes sense. It's not disrespectful. That's what can be said about somebody. I mean, damn, Gary Russell Jr. has said quite a bit. I'd even take that fight. Gary Russell Jr. against Gervonta Davis. I'd watch that fight. I probably wouldn't pay pay-per-view for it. I'd lean towards the pay-per-view. You know what? If Mayweather and Golden Boy got it done and said it's going pay-per-view and called my bluff as a fan and as a paying fan, and they made it, I'll buy it. How about that? I'd buy it. You know, the hell with it. Especially if you give me a decent co-main, I'll go ahead and put down my shekels and buy it. With that being said, you know, it's kind of interesting to listen to some people, and it's not fair to us. It's not. It's really not. A lot of these younger guys that we all want to see do great things and advance the sport. We want to see these guys face off against one another. We want to see who's really the best. We want to see who's really great. You know, who's not just Twitter fingers and Instagram posts. We really want to see the fights. I get it. We got to pick our sides. Okay. But the difficult thing becomes, like, none of these guys, they all operate in these separate universes, these different worlds, these different fish. They swim in these different fish bowls. And it's very, very rare that you find mutual opponents. It's very rare that you find these mutual opponents to even get a damn good beat on what would happen if these guys matched up. Over on Golden Boy, you know, it's kind of it's a West Coast situation. They're fighting, you know, he's fighting guys who rarely fight PBC fighters or rarely fight, and it's all on relationships. You know, they bring in these guys from, you know, the A-sides bring in these opponents from these smaller promoters, these independent promoters, or these, you know, these international promoters. They bring these guys in and they match them up against the money fighter. And then because they have that relationship, that better relationship, maybe they steer the smaller promoters, they steer their talent over to face Golden Boy guys as they're grooming them, as they're developing them. Same thing with PBC. They have their relationships with their smaller and independent, lesser powerful promoters. Their guys come over there and they serve as opponents for their up and coming guys. Top Rank has this, you know, they match up some of their fighters against this. They got the Japanese connection. They bring people over, they bring fighters over from the Philippines and whatnot. Then you got you know, Devin Haney, what Matchroom and Eddie Hearn have tried to do for him and getting him together. But a lot of times, like I said, we don't see very many mutual opponents to give us an idea what's what. All in all, this is not a bad. And here in this situation right now with Luke Campbell is one of the best mutual opponents that we can see when we get to looking at Garcia, Gervonta Davis, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez. And Teofimo was already, you know, he's in the what do they call it? The winner's circle. Like, he doesn't have to do nothing else. He doesn't have to do anything else. Tank Davis said, lightweight, we need to see you do something. Are you a junior lightweight or are you a lightweight? Where are you going to be campaigning at? Devin Haney, we need to see you do something. Fortuna, you know, the WBC versus the franchise WBC. Like, what's the play? What's the play? Is it to try to unify? I don't even know what that is. Unify the the world version and the franchise version, or is it to look to this interim WBC winner between Garcia and Luke Campbell? What's the play for all of these guys? So just for fun, and then moving along in that discussion, I'm looking at some of the talk in different places, and it's just, it's so easy to discredit. It's cool. I mean, it's not really that bad because I've seen a lot of people that are very high on Garcia. I see a lot of people that are very high on their future outlook and projection for Ryan Garcia. I kind of don't know. Tomorrow I'm looking to learn kind of my final stance on the kid. I'm looking to see that tomorrow, to be honest with you. But then you get the lazier fans, or just the full on, fans who give really no analysis or really no consideration, like based on the whole, what ethnicity you are, you just disregard certain fighters. We also could not respect, or some of us could find it hard to respect Garcia as a fighter based on coming up in the, on the West Coast. We don't look at that boxing scene, the amateur boxing scene and whatnot. We don't look at it quite like we might with the, in the Midwest and on the East Coast and whatnot. But the kid, I mean, he's 20-0 already. 17 knockouts. The step-ups that we've seen between Duno and Fonseca. Fonseca's another mutual opponent. He went to the lasted to the 8th round with Tank Davis. So some things are coming together. We don't know. Well, we got Gamboa, with Devin Haney and whatnot. But I don't just disregard Ryan Garcia. Now with Luke Campbell, Southpaw, I forgot to mention that yesterday in my preview video as kind of an interesting thing to keep an eye on. But Luke Campbell, I look at him as a guy who can do some things offensively, and then I also think he's tough enough that if he should get knocked down early, I've seen enough from him with being down in the second round, I believe, against Linares, going on and finishing the fight, getting dropped in the 11th or the 12th against Lomachenko and finishing the fight. I would imagine he's a guy that if he does get dropped early on or in the mid rounds or whatever, I would imagine that he can figure it out. You just can't be this one, this one trick pony. Definitely not once you've gotten to the world stage, to the world class stage. You got to have more clubs in the bag than just, a left hook. So what can we do? I think it's very interesting to look at Ryan's amateur record. Of course, past performance doesn't always predict future, results and whatnot. To see him at just, at 29-15, that isn't the greatest amateur record that we've heard of, but he's got some interesting names on there. And it's also, if you look at the amateur situation, you look at what he's done in the pros, then we start getting these mutual opponents in there. That's another box we check. Then you start looking at, how are you beating these opponents? That's another box to check. What's your preparation going into each fight? How clean is your living? How clean is what is your commitment level? Who are you sparring with? Who are you taking pointers from? So he's starting to check all these boxes. Obviously, being down there in camp with Canelo and Reynoso, 3 or 4 fights together now. And having the peer pressure, to show up to the gym daily and put in the effort of a guy making $20, $25, $35 million a fight in Canelo. How do you come in there and apply yourself, on a daily basis? We can look at Tank. Here's a guy you had to go stay out in him and his trainer, Calvin Ford, had to go out and stay in Las Vegas for 2 or 3 months for this pay-per-view against Leo Santa Cruz. That's something to consider there for me. He showed up and made weight first first try, knockout of the year performance for many. He's checking boxes too. He's already won, he's already won titles and whatnot. 2 times at lightweight, holds this 2 times at junior lightweight, holds this regular WBA belt now. At lightweight, he's checking boxes too. But can we get this next fight? How do you ignore this man just constantly calling you out on Instagram and then to go get an inferior opponent, possibly? But looking at Ryan's, this is the best predictor I have with him of like what he really is. And it's hard to ignore some of this. It's hard to ignore some of this based on a couple of things. Who these opponents are, and then what some of those opponents have gone on to do since they've become pros. It's kind of, and this isn't my whole entire argument on it and whatnot, but it's kind of fun to sit here and take and go back on this and see, in 44 fights, 129 rounds. Let's look at some of it. This is Ryan Garcia, and I know Tank Davis's amateur reputation is stellar. It was must see. That's what led Adrian Broner to connect Floyd with Tank, was what was going on in the amateurs. But for Ryan, if there's any doubt on, he's just this Instagram kid. I mean, he has wins against Delonte Johnson, who's going to be in the upcoming Olympics. Rashad Matty, who's over on DAZN, 5 or 6 wins, 7 wins. Brandon Lee, making a lot of noise at super lightweight. Big puncher. What is he like? 21-0 now, 22-0. Just got a victory last week, I believe. It wasn't televised. 2 wins against Devin Haney. 2 wins against Virgil Ortiz Jr., the other new or now face of Golden Boy Promotions. A win over Luis Correa, hard-nosed fighter. I like Correa. I believe 2 wins over Desmond Jarman as well, out of Cincinnati, Ohio. I didn't even know Desmond had been out there against Ryan Garcia. And then another interesting name in his win column is Brian Lua, who's a very intriguing kid for Top Rank. Another West Coast boxer. I like Brian Lua's game a lot, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if he's at junior lightweight or lightweight right now, but Brian Lua, who's just coming back from a break from the game. Again, this is why I watch all these undercards. This is why I watch ESPN Plus. This is why I pay for ESPN Plus. That's how I enjoy the sport. Versus sitting here arguing about when the hell or what the purse split is between Errol Spence and Bud Crawford. Let's look at his losses. 2 losses against Devin Haney. Another loss against Leon Lawson III, who's a a super welterweight, maybe even he might be a middleweight now. He's like 6'5", from out of Flint, from out of Vehicle City. Nephew or whatever of the Darrell brothers. Cousin, whatever. I can't do it in my head. 2 losses to Brian Lua. I told you Brian Lua was kind of nice. A loss to Shakur Stevenson, who's now, already won a title at featherweight, now campaigning at super featherweight, in line for a shot at the WBO super featherweight, Olympic silver medalist and whatnot or whatever. Lost to him. Another thing that jumped out to me was a loss to Raymond Murataya, who's been on ESPN Plus and on some of the undercards a couple of times. It's 2 Muratayas. I think they're brothers and whatnot. I can't remember which one. I think Raymond might be the more talented one, I want to say. So, like I said, this doesn't tell you everything, but it is interesting to note that, like, Garcia is more than just a pretty face, He's more than just a dude with however many million people, fans or followers on Instagram. Shout out to him, actually, though, for doing really good at the gate at what is that? American Airlines Arena where the Mavericks play, I believe, in Dallas. So that's it, man. From 2008 to 2016, you know, that's some good names. I mean, that's all of those guys are going somewhere in the sport currently, especially 2 wins over Virgil Ortiz Jr., which lets you know immediately what happens once these guys get to the pros and start on their careers, and it becomes incumbent upon them to maximize what they're going to do. And like I said, who's living right? Who's going out and whose team is helping them get better? I think I just saw Jared Anderson with some heavyweights. Just did some sparring with some heavyweights. I want to say down in Florida or something. Like, who's getting on the road? Charles Conwell. He was all over the Eastern Seaboard, in Cincinnati, in Cleveland, in Georgia, in Philadelphia with Jaron Ennis. This dude all over the place trying to get better. You know, you can't necessarily get better on fight night under the bright lights. You got to do some stuff before then, you know. And like I said, this lets me know, and that's not. I was actually proud of Tank. I don't even take that as I don't even look at that and view that as a negative that he went out to Las Vegas with him and Calvin Ford. They understood that the stakes were high. You out here asking people to pay their money. You facing a guy who's a 4 division champion. You got to deliver. You had the issue with the previous fight, not making weight the first time and showing up late, blah, blah, blah. You know, you get to the pay-per-view level, people invest in moving equipment around and setting all of this stuff up and spending money. You got to deliver, and he did that. I think they should be able to make this fight, man. If he gets past Luke Campbell, it should be some strong considerations for that. And if you're out here, from Mayweather's perspective, you know, if you're out here, who's gonna strike first? Who's going to reach across the aisle or work with the ops or concede or do something to deliver or over deliver, you know, to please fans? Who's gonna flinch first? And is there some kind of long-term payoff in doing so? I also just saw looks like Luke Campbell just stepped on the scale. I also just saw that Franchon Cruz, her opponent, Ashley Curry, didn't make weight. That was interesting. She can't get a clean fight. I saw some criticism of Ashley Curry even being her opponent with all the losses that she has and whatnot. Ryan Garcia just stepped on and made weight. So that's pretty much it, man. Like I said, just going back and checking out. You know, everybody doesn't go the amateur route where you go the Olympics and go down that path. Some guys want to get in. This is what they want to do. This is their plan. You know, there is no plan B. Get paid for it. We just saw a big step forward from Chris Colbert. Didn't go that Olympic route. Very talented guy. So with everybody who doesn't go 80-2, 80-12, you know, 90-8, you know, 120-15, you know, everybody doesn't go that route, and we gotta parse through this stuff and see what we can see until somebody signs on the dotted line. So anyway, again, man, how long can Golden Boy sit here and call you out and challenge you and like I said, it's not like a guy who's not bringing something to the table. It's not like, especially, you know, selling out right now in this pandemic. If you get a big win tomorrow night, I think it's some conversations that need to be had. Anyway, my name is Wood Bite Down Boxing. Don't let them count you out. Pay me no mind, sports and entertainment. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.